Hey, good morning, Patriots. Man, oh man, every time I hear that music, I feel like I'm going to go to sleep and wake up washed up on some beach somewhere, like Ed McMahon in the old days. But that's not a good thing. So I don't understand why we have this boring bumper music. Maybe Chris can explain. Chris Cordani. Chris, why do we continue to have this boring bumper music? Can't we get something better?
I
Like
guess
Cherie let us use her rock and roll Oblivion song for our other show.
well,
So
I do have something we can use. I will probably use that. It's a little
can't
more
we use the
upbeat.
theme? Can't we use the theme from 24?
There we go. Or how about? Oh, I know what we should do. Remember the Gary Shandling show?
Vaguely. Yeah,
Well,
I wasn't a big. I know it was a funny show,
yeah. So we go when
but it
this is
wasn't.
the
It
theme
wasn't
to
something I
Gary
watched.
show. The theme to Gary show. Gary called me up and asked if I would write his theme song. We're almost halfway finished. How do you like it so far? How do you like the theme to Gary show? Then he goes again. This is the theme to Gary show, the opening theme to Gary show. This is the part where we roll the credits. We're almost at the part where I start to whistle. Then we'll watch Gary. Then he starts whistling. But that was the whole thing. It was so
Yeah.
maybe we can use that with this is the theme to Tony's show or Ed Henry show.
Well, it's Ed's
Yeah,
show, so yeah,
this
we
is
have
the
to be careful. But
Ed Henry
anyway,
asked us
so
to. Yeah,
it's just so pina colada like, you know. It's like Jesus.
yeah.
I
I
feel
like
like
pina colada
Jimmy
in a
Buffett
movie.
would have even fallen asleep to it, you know. Just saying.
Two
So
two things I like. I like pina colada, and I love it when a plan comes together.
that's right. Isn't there a song about pina coladas in the rain, something like that, or is
It's
that the
called
end
Escape.
of yeah? Is oh no, I thought that was the end of Blade Runner when they're like that guy. I'll be lost like pina coladas in the rain. Isn't that what he said? I could swear he said that, right?
Well, it's better than leaving your cake out in the rain.
That's I. So the folks know this. Every time we have a rock and roll star on any program, I always ask them, what do I ask them, Chris?
Oh, you asked him a lot of stuff. Now I know. Now I have to remember
No, I always ask them the same question: Who left the cake out in the rain?
in the
Who
rain. That's right. Yes.
Nobody can ever answer. It's like, well, I don't know. Well, you're a rock and roller, isn't that required? Aren't you supposed to learn these things in rock and roll high school, right? Yeah,
Apparently, Rock and Roll High School. By the way, another classic song, a great movie. Did you ever see the sequel to that movie? There was actually a sequel to Rock and Roll High School, which starred, I believe,
no,
Corey Feldman.
no,
Yep, it was.
no.
It wasn't bad. Mojo Nixon was in it. He played the god of rock and roll.
I did not see that. No, I
Yep,
missed that.
it was
I
actually
missed
good.
that.
I liked it.
I'll have to check it. I'll take your word for it for now, but I'll check it out. So anyway, we got some exciting stuff this morning. We've got a guy coming on later to talk about one of my favorite topics since I got a degree in environmental studies. He's going to talk about wind turbines, not wind turbines. You know, the turbines you wear, it's not the same thing. Wind
Ouch.
turbines are not the same thing as wind turbines, right? I mean, they're different with a distinction, right? Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you need them to kind of keep your hair from flowing around, or in my case,
Yeah.
keep my bald head warm.
Well, no, I'm getting that way too. You just can't see it because it's in the back. So that's why I keep my hair. Well, I keep my hair short so it kind of camouflages, because I miss my ponytail. I had a ponytail back in the old days,
And
but
by
I
the
don't
way,
have that now.
another great song,
I
"Camouflage."
about my ponytail, huh?
No, "Camouflage"
Camouflage.
by Stan Ridgway. It's a story song. It's about this. It's about a Marine who got caught up in a barrage in Vietnam.
Isn't Stan Ridgway Wall of Voodoo?
First lead singer of Wall of Voodoo. He left the
Well, I
band.
thought.
Yeah.
Well, I thought.
Andy Preboy tells me the story. He told me the story back about how he joined the band, how he was recruited by the members after Ridgway left. They brought in Andy
Yeah.
Preboy. That became a completely different band in a lot of ways because the voices were different. But
Well, that happens when you change singers, Chris. I know. Maybe they didn't tell you that in rock and roll high school, but it's like
not always. It doesn't always happen when you change singers, but it did for a few bands like Van Halen and Van Hager were
so
different.
Van Halen, the Red Rocker versus David Lee Roth. I think it's pretty bit. I think it's pretty different.
10,000 Maniacs without Natalie Merchant with Mary Ramsey, a very different band.
Yeah, yeah. The Beatles with Tom Petty instead of Ringo Starr. No, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. It would have been funny. It
You
would
must
have
be
been
thinking
funny.
of the Traveling Wilburys, right?
I love the trivia. I was listening to one of their songs this morning, "End of the Line," which is the end of the line for "Let's
Oh,
Go, Brandon." Right?
I
Let's go, Brandon.
yeah, end of the line
So
for the Democrats. That's what it is right now, and David Hogg is doing his best to make that happen. Good on you, David.
yes, good day. Could you go, girl?
He's a girl boss, isn't he?
He's a girl. He's that in a bag of chips.
Again, one of the rare times I ever agreed with James Carville. He is a twerp.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't know if anybody, even on his, well, clearly on his own side, but between you and me, you go, girl. You go. You keep going, David. You and Boss Hogg will be legends in your own mind. I swear to God, it'll be great.
Oh, it's absolutely
So,
fantastic, and he's being challenged already. We have
well, he is challenged. I mean, he's kind of that. He's the reason he wasn't actually in the shooting at the high school because he rides the short bus, and the short bus was delayed. Just saying. So,
oh, is that what happened? Oh,
yeah.
I see. See, I just thought he kind of chickened out and going to school anyway, and just came back. I don't know. He wasn't there. That was the whole big
He
deal.
wasn't
He was
there.
not
He
there at
wasn't
the
there.
time. Right.
He wasn't there. So speaking of someone who was not there, is well, he's not there, but a lot of Democrats aren't there because they're not digging the first 100 days. So yesterday, you all saw it. I actually was in the queue. I didn't go on to comment on Newsmax on the president's speech in Michigan, and he did some highlighting of a bunch of things he's done. I think he's done a great job. Democrats think he's done a terrible job, and from their perspective, yeah, it's been terrible because they've
Terrible
lost
for them.
U.S. aid. They're having their own little infrastructure dismantled. They're having acting blue by holding its breath and hoping for the best because they're being investigated, and a lot of things going on. So I think it's good that he's done this, and so he did an interview with ABC, which I don't know why he does these interviews. Maybe just to troll him because he does a lot of trolling in this interview, right, Chris?
Yes, he does, and this is a virtual unknown, a Terry Moran, I believe his name is.
Yeah, I've seen him around, and I've physically seen him around DC, but he's a Ken doll, and he's probably like a Ken down there too. Just saying, I don't know that,
I
but
love that. I live in town.
he
He used to say that all the time.
looks like a Ken doll. If he looks like a Ken doll, he smells like a Ken doll, he walks like a Ken doll.
I think so.
I don't know.
It definitely smells like one. Has a lot of brill cream, if you will. But
Yeah.
this guy tried very hard to make a name for himself rather than maybe do an interview. So let's hear some.
Do you think
let's
the
do this.
reputation of the United States has gone down under
By the way, using the
Oh, yeah.
reputation of the states has gone down hoax.
your presidency? No, I think it's gone way up, and I think we're a respected country again. We were laughed at all over the world. We had a president that couldn't walk up a flight of stairs, couldn't walk down a flight of stairs, couldn't walk across the stage without falling. We had a president that was grossly incompetent. You knew it, I knew it, and
Grossly.
everybody knew it, but you guys didn't want to write it because you're fake news.
Ouch.
And by the way, ABC is one of the worst.
Someone is
Yeah, look right to his face.
Yeah.
Right to his face. Like,
So-
dude, you
Somebody had
suck.
to pull out the cortisone because this guy just got burned.
I mean, basically, he's sitting there saying, "Dude, you suck, and you
Yep.
suck big time." And the
Yep.
guy's just sitting there, kind of taking like, "I guess that's true." So I guess he's a Ken doll. So and he's right. Now the thing I would have done differently, Chris, I would have stopped him. It's like, okay, who is telling you that our reputation is diminished? ABC News? Well, you're fake news. But it's a legitimate question. It's like, and people have referenced, and you see this on my social media. Oh, well, Joe Biden was more loved at the Pope's funeral. Well, that's for two reasons. First off, he's about to die. So, of course, people are going to be all over Joe Biden. And secondly, he's like that crazy uncle who can't keep his pants on, but he keeps giving out people $100 bills anywhere he goes. It's like, yeah, he was giving all these people the international equivalent of $100 bills anywhere he went. Well, it's been cut off. So you want to go talk to Uncle Joe because, he's crazy Uncle Joe.
Yes.
But he's not respected. He's appreciated for being incompetent. That's what Joe Biden was. And Trump pointed it out here, right, Chris?
Exactly. It's a huge difference between being liked, being
Yeah.
sucked up to, and being respected.
Exactly. So let's
here's
keep
some
going.
Here's some more. Now, this is the fight over the Maryland man hoax and the MS-13 tattoos. This reporter, this interviewer, if you will.
Oh yeah, this is horrible for the reporter.
He was trying to get the last word and change the subject because he's trying to get the viral moment.
Now, folks, keep in mind when you see this, he's going to say, "Oh, I'm no tattoo expert," but then he argues like he's an expert the next 10 minutes, right? Let's watch this.
Exactly. And another quick note on this. He's trying to create a viral moment here. Watch the tactics both of them pull. Trump knows he's doing it, so he times the responses perfectly correctly. So you can't stick this on TikTok and doctor it. So let's hit it.
He wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute.
Well, wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattoo.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
See, there he goes.
They are.
I want
they
the last
aren't
word, so let's
interpreted.
move on. Right.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
That was Photoshop.
It's in code.
So let me just.
It's encoded.
He had
Right. And look, he was saying that was Photoshop, hoping to get that last word and move
It
on.
was not photoshopped. Yeah.
Get the viral
Plus,
moment.
the skull is a 3 by what? Because of the 3 holes. 1, 2, 3. It's a 3. Just saying.
Exactly.
Mr. Non-expert Terry, who's now arguing with the president
These are
over
the
stuff he doesn't understand.
Yep, these are the same people that think Musk pulled a Nazi sign after throwing the heart thing out there. I mean, the heart thing's kind of annoying anyway, but still. So these are supposed experts in all this. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But watch again what Trump did, because he was trying to get was trying to get the viral moment, the last word, but Trump right at that last word said something, so you can't doctor it.
Yeah, that was Photoshop. So let me
that
just.
was Photoshop, Terry. You can't
had-
do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. I picked you, Terry.
Yeah, I just
You're
took
not
a
very
shot,
nice.
and
He
I
had
was right.
MS-13
You suck.
tattooed.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to
Terry,
move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture. We'll
and you think it
agree
was
to disagree.
Photoshop?
Well, I saw the
Here we go.
picture.
Here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look
Here
at
we
his
go.
hand. He
Fair
had
enough.
MS-13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on
No,
them.
they
I want to turn
are-
to Ukraine.
No,
sir.
Terry,
are
Terry,
that way.
No. He had
No.
MS as clear as you can be, not interpreted. This is why
All right.
people no longer believe the news, because
When
it's
he was
fake
photographed
news.
in El Salvador, they aren't there.
He's really
Ken
trying to back the story
Ken
up here.
Ken Doll. Keep going.
Look how nervous he is now. He's like, "Oh my God, we're caught. What do I do? The boss is
ain't
going to yell at me.
working,
Trump's going to yell at
dude.
me."
Oh,
But let's just
where's
go.
my
They weren't
card?
there when he's in El Salvador.
They
Take
weren't
a look
there,
at the
but they're
photograph.
there now, right?
No,
But they're there
in
now.
your picture.
Terry,
Ukraine, sir.
he's got MS-13 on his knuckles,
All right.
okay?
We'll take a look.
It's you do
We'll take
such
a
a
look.
No,
disservice.
go take a
We'll
look.
take a look at
What
that.
It is what it
just-
is. Just tell the truth.
Yeah,
Just
it's a
tell the truth.
disservice.
By the way, is that all? Is that all for the clip?
Oh,
So,
that's all
did
that
you know-
clip. Yes.
Okay. Well, I got an announcement to make. You ready?
Ready.
This is on my friend Chris Plant. You know, I'm going to be on Chris. Oh, I'll be on Chris Plant's show this Friday. The Right Squad. So
Excellent.
check your local listings and all that. Anyway, so Chris just planted this on his website, on his Facebook.
I'll pull
One of
that up here.
the heroes of the left died 80 years ago today. So I guess the left will be in mourning. If you see any folks in the Democrat Party wearing black, well, this is why. Just saying. So
He's the hero of the National Socialists. That's what he was. And that's what we should
because
be
they're
calling the Nazis.
they're kind of like anti-Semitic on campuses now. So I just saying, I think there's a link. I think there's a strong link because they are socialists and they're nationalists, sort of. And so it's like we've seen this movie before, right, Chris?
I have seen it several times. And I have another one to show you, as
Yeah.
a matter of fact.
All right.
Here's Here's a mob in Brooklyn, by the way, a pro-Hamas
mob.
mob. Yep, they say
Yeah.
pro-Palestinian, but it's a pro-Hamas mob in Brooklyn. Watch what these people
Well,
do.
there we go. Just Hitler did. Okay, keep going.
Okay, I have to pull it up here.
Yeah, you want to try that today?
See, they're all masked up, by the way. You ever notice that? Always behind masks.
All right. Yo, watch out. Watch out. All right. Stop pushing.
So is that is that mostly peaceful? I'm asking for a friend.
It is mostly peaceful for them. For the mainstream media, yes, it's always going to be mostly peaceful. It's not a riot. It's not a horrible attack. It's not a mob. It is a mostly peaceful protest of
Yeah, I guess they
tablecloth
didn't
masked people.
firebomb anybody, so I guess it was mostly peaceful. I guess.
This is what happens. This is happening every day in Brooklyn. A lot of things like this are happening.
Yeah.
Or I'm exaggerating, but almost every day, or a lot of days.
Well,
Crown Heights is also a black neighborhood. They don't want that war. They definitely don't want that fucking war. Because it'll be every day.
They don't let us go into Zionist Jew neighborhoods because they are paid for by the Zionists. They're owned by the Zionist Jews. They don't want to step on the Zionist Jews' toes.
See, again, masked up. They don't want to be seen because they know what they're going to be on video. They're going to be fired. Well, I would say they're going to be fired from their job, but come on.
yeah.
Are they working?
Yeah. So, first off, shout out to my friends in the NYPD. God bless you guys for putting up with that nonsense. And I know some of those guys. I didn't see any of the guys I know in that video, but I know some of the folks working that. I may see them soon. We're trying to work out some details where I go visit them at some point soon. But man, oh man, that is well, like I said, it's kind of Hitler-esque. Because the purpose of these protests, let's be clear here. This is not about the genocide. There are 400 million Arabs. The Palestinians are part of that demographic. So the Israelis being, I think, less than 12 million. I think it's between 9 and 12. I'm pretty sure that 9 million folks can't kill 40 million or 400 million. I think the numbers aren't there. So that's all false. So what this is all about is projection. What they're doing is saying, oh, we want a free Palestine. No, it's river to the sea, folks. They want to eliminate the Israelis, right, Chris? That's what's really going on here. So
Exactly. And
don't be fooled.
A lot of these
6th
unwitting
day on the genocide day,
right. A lot of these kids may be unwitting, but a lot of them know what they're saying.
Oh yeah,
and they're college students. A lot of these college students on Columbia and in Columbia and Harvard and places like that, they were indoctrinated. They know exactly what they're saying when they're talking about the Intifada, and they're talking about the river to the sea. They're talking. They know exactly what they're saying. They're not that naive.
No, of course. No, this whole thing is just a travesty. And again, with Marco Rubio and the State Department ending the visas of people who act out, I have no problem with that at all. If you come here and you purport that you want to exercise your free speech, exercise away. But the moment you start saying that you're going to use your speech to demonize and degrade and otherwise try to justify the elimination of a whole race, the Jewish race, then you need to go. You need to go. This is not part of our culture. That to me it's not even hate speech. It's actually something that relates to the fact that you're trying to organize people to do something to actually make it real. So I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that, Chris, but I'm pretty strong on this. They need to go.
I'm with you on that. And a lot of these people, you know what? The media and some factions on the left worked very hard to identify the J6ers and people who are at those that kind of protest. And like I said, some people were fired from their jobs because of this. A lot of people lost their livelihoods and their lives even. But FT4 Trump on the I hope I have that right here on the chat room says identify these terrorists, and we should. There are ways to do that. The problem is most of us are working and have other things to do.
Yeah. So it's bad all around. I mean, but did you know the worst part of this whole issue with Israel? You know what the worst issue is?
Okay, I'll bite.
I'm choking I'm trying to stop choking up here because it's so serious. Did you know that because I'll just say it. Did you know that George Clooney's wife may be banned from coming back in the United States because she's part of the team that indicted Benjamin Netanyahu? Wouldn't that be sad? Poor George Clooney.
Yeah. Maybe that's why he's moving back.
Oh no, it's tragic to think that some Hollywood icon, rolling my eyes, like George Clooney would be deprived of a wife because of her trying to indict Benjamin Netanyahu for defending his people. Just saying. So,
well, there are a lot of people have moved out of this country and lived to regret it. There's a profanity-laden woman on. I can't play this one, but it's a woman who moved to Ghana and realized how hard life was over there. Even though there was so many racist, awful white people here who voted for Trump, it was so hard. She went to Ghana, realized that you're living a different life. You don't have the American luxuries there. So she wants to move back. This one was just as bad. This one, I believe, and I'll play this here. It's a trans TikToker who moved to the UK, and she's I don't know what you want to call it. It's upset because things aren't the same there either, but in a different manner. Check this out.
Yeah.
For everybody who may not know what's going on with me, I've decided to leave the country, and after deliberating on a few different plans and figuring out where things might be best, I decided to come to the United Kingdom, which has been a huge mistake, I must say. Not only the April 16th law that passed invalidating transferable genders and the 2010 Equality Act has transpired. When I first got here, things seemed pretty okay and warm, welcoming, and a lot of support, but something about the United Kingdom that I've noticed, and from speaking to other people as well as what's happened with Brexit, tensions shift very quickly when laws change. And I've found myself not welcome in places I was welcome just on my initial arrival very quickly. It's been quite terrifying, quite traumatizing. Literally
Traumatizing, huh?
About an hour ago, I was assaulted by 3 men on the London Underground who tried to steal my phone and my bag.
Oh, you mean all the criminals there that the same government that loves you and welcomes you in welcomes as well? I mean, she was said about the crime over there.
Yeah.
This is the far left government of the UK has let everybody run rampant, run willy-nilly all over the place. The regular people have to live with all the consequences. And yes, even this guy over here. And he goes on, he's upset that he's unseen now because nobody pats him on the back because he's a trans or whatever.
So I don't know why these people, this is like, again, we've talked about this. Chickens protesting a closing of a Kentucky Fried Chicken. Like,
exactly.
Really? It's like, they'd roast you. Like they will roast you. It's like, dude, it's like they don't accept. I had this conversation. Who did I have this conversation with yesterday? The Israelis. Was it here on the show? It all blurs together. Yeah, it was yesterday.
It just
like,
does.
We talked about it on the show. It's like the Israelis are the most accepting culture in the Middle East. You can be gay, lesbian. You can like gerbils, like certain people I know in Hollywood. And they don't care. They don't care. They don't care. And you can be trans or gonculated. You know, what's that thing in Back to the Future? It's not a gonculator. It's like you have to have it's a thing that moves space and time. Anyway, you could be a time traveler. They don't care.
Time machine.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, time
Yeah,
machine.
that's right.
A DeLorean.
Right. DeLorean. You could have a DeLorean. You could be Mr. DeLorean. You know, you could. My point is, you can be all you can be. Well, that's the army too. We could, in our army, in the
Oh,
old
I
days,
remember that.
be all you can be. Yeah. Well, Pete's bringing it back. Let's talk about that some other time. Though.
I like that.
Anyway, my point being is that the only place in the Middle East, the only place you can be gay, lesbian, bi, whatever XYZ be, whatever rainbow color you care to be, you can't be it anywhere else except in Israel, right, Chris? Nowhere else.
No,
Nowhere else.
not in the Middle East. No.
Nowhere.
And the other
Yeah.
on the other side of that, you also can't be a pedophile in the in Israel, and I suppose
That's
they
true.
promote that in some factions of the Middle East, but that's another story for another day.
It is. But point being, and Chris and I think, are very clear on this. There's nowhere else you can be on the rainbow. On the rainbow.
The rainbow and the spectrum.
You can't be on the rainbow spectrum anywhere else. So these people are nuts, literally. I mean, not even like crazy nuts, like stupid, like you're ignorant. You're purposely being ignorant and supporting a cause that would lead to your own demise. And so I don't know what it's going to take to get these people to wake up. It's like, no, they tell you if you were in Gaza, they'd lock you in a building that the Israelis are going to hit and let you get blown up because they hate you. So I don't know what we're supposed to, I don't know how you get through it. I really don't know how you get through it.
Well, speaking of blowing up, we all know that Canada called that early
Oh
election.
my God.
And that's right. And the Liberals won because, well, basically of fear mongering. They used the Trump fear mongering card. On the surface, you're going to see the Canadians have won this election. Well, excuse me, excuse my cough.
Yeah.
But what you'll find is the Liberals needed a 172 seat majority to actually have a majority leadership. Well, it might not affect them that much, and I'll explain why. Still, what you might...
It was very close. It was very close.
It was a lot closer than you think because while the mainstream media is patting the Liberals on the back and Mark Carney saying, "Look at us, we won, we're the greatest." The Conservatives are nothing. They were supposed to win. They weren't supposed to win. The election in Canada is usually stacked up for the Liberals because the way the districts are set up. That's number one. Number two, the Conservatives, despite what the media is going to tell you and media is trying to hide from you, they gained 25 seats. 25 seats in a snap election, a virtual snap election, by the way, that saw the Liberals lose a full majority. So they lost seats. The far left, the new Democratic Party, they call themselves. They're really the squad wing, I suppose, of or squad offshoot of the Democrats or the Liberals over there. They went down to 7 seats. So basically what you're seeing is the Liberals and the far left, the globalists, they're losing favor in Canada. The trend is going towards the anti-globalists. If it were not for the Trump fear, for the anti-Trump and tariff fear mongering, it might have been a lot worse for the Liberal Party.
That's right. So did you know, here's some trivia for you. Did you know that Austin Powers, the super spy, the spy who shagged me, he didn't shag me. Just saying. It's the name, not action. Yeah. Did you know he's only afraid of 2 things? Did you know this? Do you know what the first thing is?
What's the first thing?
Nuclear war. Do you know what the second thing is?
What?
Carnies. So he's afraid of this guy. So he's afraid of Carney. This guy.
Yeah, I got that.
So, and rightly so.
Yep.
Rightly so. This guy is going to be dangerous. He's Justin Trudeau, who's been on Epstein's Island.
Now, the one thing the left is pointing to at this point, and the media is pointing to, is Pierre Poilievre lost his seat, but that was mainly due to fear mongering again. You also want to know the squad wings leader, Rajit Singh, also lost his seat. So beneath the surface, between the headlines and underneath all the celebration, you're seeing the globalists losing power now in Canada, which was a huge stronghold for them. It was they're thinking more like us. I know. Look, we're never going to take them as the 51st state. That was a big joke. We don't want them. We don't want new electoral votes going to the Democrats.
Well, it's kind of like, it's like they're like America's attic. Like, you have stuff in your attic. It's like, oh, hey, this is interesting. It's interesting for about 10 minutes. Like, oh, I forgot I had Aunt Elma's rosary up here. That's kind of cool. Oh, I'm done. And so you go up and look around. It's too cold. Who can live in that kind of cold anyway? Well, besides, we got Alaska. We want cold, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but Alaska.
and other than what's the name of that coffee place? My son loves that coffee place. What is the name of that? It's like their version of Starbucks. Oh, Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons and Labatt's. That's about all they got. What
What
else?
about Elsinore beer?
Yeah,
There's always
and
Elsinore
the
beer.
McKenzie brothers are too old to be relevant anymore. So you really can't make fun of Bob and Doug.
That's right. I don't think kids even know what Elsinore
And
beer
then,
is.
and Red Green, I love Red Green. He's got his own channel on Pluto, but even I think most Canadians in the big cities hate the guy because he's funny. You know, if you can't be handsome, be handy, which is good advice, especially for Canadians. Just saying.
Well, there are a lot of good things that came out of Canada that I would like to take. Like, I would love to have Men Without Hats. All right. Bring them
Oh,
here.
I forgot about them. But
Yes.
yeah, but didn't they leave? I thought they defected to like Poland or something.
No, they're here a lot because they because they perform here. They're a great band. I did tell you what happened one day though, right?
No, tell me.
I went to a concert with my friend Adriana from Kid Creole and the Coconuts, and this is important here.
She sounds cool, by the way. Should bring her on sometime.
She's very cool. She her and I used to go to concerts together. She's on the liberal side, but she's very cool. You'd like her.
We've had my friend Matt Ho on before. Matt's kind of
that is true. That is true. So think about this. He was wearing a cowboy hat during the concert I saw.
Okay.
That doesn't make any sense now, does it?
Well, if
Man
he's
Without Hats,
a man without hat.
I should have dug up a picture of him. I didn't think to talk about it today.
He's older now, right? He doesn't look like he used to in the old videos, right?
No, but he still has cool long hair. And he's a cool guy. He's really a very cool guy. He's very zen, very cool.
I always see people like they were in the
philosophical
80s because I look like I did in the 80s except for my hair.
Yeah.
So just saying, it's like I have this false sense of people,
right,
so to speak.
So let's think about this. Maybe there's a compromise.
Okay.
We can draft some Canadians into America. Here's another one I'd like to have.
Okay.
The Head Crusher, because I think he'd be very
I
strategically
remember that from
important.
Kids in the Hall. I was a funny show.
Yep, and I crush your head. I crush your head.
That was funny.
Yeah, and we could use him strategically. I think Pete Hesketh should bring him in, the DOD, and use him to thwart terrorist attacks. Because when the terrorist walks in, they're trying to shoot people up or something like that. He comes in, I gotta crush his head. I crush your head.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. That might work. I don't know. We're talking about using AI. I was on last night talking about AI, artificial intelligence. So maybe we could give him some enhanced artificial intelligence and let him go off and do his thing. Yeah, maybe it's worth a try.
I'll go with that.
It's not the worst thing we ever spent money on.
Well, straight from here we go. We actually have a guest. Chadwick Hagan is with us, and we're going to talk about something very important here. We're going to talk about energy. We have his latest article. We'll talk about that as well. But Chadwick, welcome to Ed Henry's
good morning,
Wake Up
Chad.
Patriots with Tony Shaffer.
Good morning.
Hey guys, morning. How's it going?
Good. So we appreciate you being here. Full disclosure, I've got a degree in environmental studies, Wright State University, Dayton, Ohio, 1986. So
Nice.
I'm a friend in court to what you're saying. And by the way, this morning I had to drive by a bunch of useless, and they were barely turning. I don't even think they were turning of those damn things that kill birds and requires much more energy to make and run than they produce in their lifetime. Am I correct about that, Chad?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really a silly reality to have that here in America, a country basically the size of a continent. And I understand having these wind farms in certain places, right? Like I drove to Colorado last summer and going through Kansas, they had a lot of them, and that might make sense to a degree. So I'm not against it 100%, but I just think some of these rushed projects, especially what I read about in that article off the coast of New York with Empire Wind, is just really ridiculous. And it's not only ridiculous from the cost of electricity, but it's also ridiculous from an environmental standpoint and from what it's going to do from an ecological disaster standpoint.
Yeah. So I think this is part of what people don't understand. And I know this is going to sound a bit strange. I'm a conservative, but I believe from the beginning we should be good stewards of our environment. And I don't think it's incompatible. I actually got my degree. I had a internship with the city of Kettering, Ohio, learn how planning works. We had extensive instruction on nuclear power plants. We had to draw from memory. No books. We had 2 hours and blue books. You had to draw and label from memory the workings of a nuclear power plant. That was our final exam. So
that's serious.
It was a serious degree. And so they taught us about albedos, about the sun and weather, what weather is versus climate. And so my issue is not with the fact that the climate is changing. It changes constantly. My issue is with the remedies that folks put forward. And while I do believe that there's certain roles for green energy, to your point, there's a lot of places which have invested in green. Let's just go cut to the chase. Spain and Portugal. Spain just last week was bragging that they got rid of all of their nuclear power plants and they were now on sustainable green energy only. And then here we come. We're not even to the summer yet. They have a hot day and they crash the grid because it's all because of all the. So do you think that that's smart? I mean, what the heck?
I mean, people were stranded in subways, below ground in pitch black dark.
Oh
So,
yeah.
no, I mean,
we didn't have any surge capability. Yeah.
No, I mean, and I think, zooming out and looking at this bigger picture, if it's really about limiting and lowering emissions, China and India are the problem.
Right. Absolutely.
Our emissions have lowered. The United Kingdom's emissions have lowered. Most of Western Europe's emissions have lowered. So the issue is China and India, and then eventually Brazil. But we're not talking about that. And I think that's an important point because it kind of sows the seed of doubt, especially in conservatives, regarding the environmental movement. And basically just think, is what you're saying BS? Because if emissions were as serious as you say they were, then we should certainly focus on China and India. And then I don't want to spend too much time talking about China and India, but just look at what they're doing from an emission standpoint. Look at what future projections are like. It's absolutely crazy. So the fact that we're having to switch over to renewables without even really talking about energy being such a large country, I just think it's very obviously a grift. It's a huge element of cronyism. If I drive to Florida, I'm in Atlanta. If I drive to Florida, I pass a lot of solar farms on the highway. And
here too, where I live.
The reality is when you scrape the ground to install solar panels, you might as well pave it in concrete because you're stripping all the soil out. Obviously, the landowner's usually selling that soil, and you're getting right down to the clay, and you're just installing these solar panels. So it's destroying habitat for the animals. Obviously, you're taking agriculture production away, but also at the end of that life of these solar panels, there's still not a worthwhile way to fully recycle them.
Right. Well, so let's just touch on that.
Yeah, I mean, you're an environmental studies major, so you understand this, but it's really
let's touch on that, Chad, for a second. I mean, any given solar farm, to your point, you have to start off by basically destroying the land you're trying to save. Like, okay, it's like Vietnam. We had to burn the village to save the village. Okay.
And here's how they end up, by the way.
Yeah. And then what goes into a solar panel is a lot of rare earth minerals, which you have to mine. You have to go somewhere to get all the different elements that go into the thing. Then you have to have carbon, and you have to have sand basically for the silicate to be the mirror. And then you have the carbon is part of the deal too. You have to have carbon as part of the absorption thing for the heat. So the whole thing is expensive, and then you can't really recycle these things. But once they're done, you got to basically put them in a landfill and let them, degrade over 5,000 years. So it doesn't actually net you anything, and it, I think, does far more damage to the environment than good. And to your point, Chad, and let me hit this real quick. I'm not against CO2. Even if we allowed the planet to warm a little bit, there would be no net loss of the momentum of the environment. There's not going to be any great, I think, freezing of the ice caps. As a matter of fact, the ice caps now, Antarctica is 17% greater ice mass than it was 30 years ago, back when Al Gore first started all of his BS. So we could afford some warming, but ultimately we really don't control it anyway. But the prescription we're being offered is not really going to net us anything regarding reduction of CO2, especially because other countries don't do it. Right, Chad? Is that the deal?
100%. I mean, I think, one of the biggest issues is deforestation and kind of not having wild places and not protecting nature, right? And if we do rewild, which I'm a big fan of rewilding, a big proponent of rewild, if we do that, that's going to help us with our resilience, whether it be kind of fighting off the effects of flooding with beaver habitats, just as an example, or, offsetting kind of warmer weather patterns by having less concrete and having a more kind of open green space in urban areas, and then obviously in areas outside of cities. That's what I believe in, and that the science supports it, and that's what we should be doing. And it's really irritating, if you care about the environment, to watch this kind of anti-pragmatic perspective unfold from the left, and often the global left. And that's just part of what I'm fighting against, because I care about the environment. I don't want to live on Earth if we don't have nature. Yet half of these, or the majority of these green energy scams, cause tremendous destruction to nature. Yeah.
So that's part of what I think we should cover real quick. Now, I live in a gated community. That I have 2 trees on my land, which are over 100 years old. They're huge. I mean, they're huge. And
Nice.
any modification of any land, even whether you own it or not, has to be approved by the architectural committee. So we're in Edenton, North Carolina. We're very old. This was like the second oldest capital on the East Coast at one point in time. Was the first capital of North Carolina. So we are very much invested in restoration and sustainment of the environment. It's a huge thing. And by the way, most of the people here are conservatives. There's very few. Yeah, we love the preservation. We want the preservation. And it's like the whole idea that somehow conservatives aren't invested in clean water, clean air, staying environment is completely stupid. It's like, no, we love the environment. The issue becomes, where do we realistically balance environment with industry? Because the other thing that you and I both know, let me pick it up. That's made of petroleum. That's made of petroleum. My phone has elements that are petroleum. Everything we now depend upon. I'm wearing a T-shirt that's made of Joe Biden. No, it's made of polyester. So it's petroleum.
Just like the people who protest for oil and they're wearing rain jackets.
Yeah,
that's made out of oil. That's made out of petroleum.
Yeah. So
how ridiculous can you be?
The fact that they we talked about earlier about protesters, gay and lesbian protesters wanting to support Hamas. It's like, okay, I don't think you know what you're doing. Same thing here. It's like protesters who demand the ending of petroleum don't understand. It's like, no. Your iPhone has components that are from petroleum that you can't live without. How do we educate people, Chad, that the fact that they're behaving in such a way that's not even logical? It does not follow. What do we do on this? Because I don't get it.
Well, I mean, I think from that perspective, there's types of individuals that we're talking about. They're maybe they really believe in this stuff, but I think they're just the type of professional activists that will get out there and talk about anything. And part of what I'm involved in is when you've recently, or at least since the Israel attacks a while back, Greta Thunberg, right, who we all know,
Greta
has come out in kind of against Israel and really, really affected her reputation in the environmental movement by supporting Palestine. And I use that just as an example, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me for Greta, who has spent a lot of time warning about not caring about the environment. And obviously she was kind of getting into that renewable discussion. But you can't blame her because she lives in Europe, right? Denmark's the size of Rhode Island. So if you want to power it with renewables, sure, fine. Just you can't logically do that in America because we're the size of a continent. But anyways, I think that when you just look at what Greta's done, right? This is a moment for conservatives in America to take over the environmental narrative.
Yeah,
and
I agree with. I
couldn't
agree with
to
you
the
more.
roots of Teddy Roosevelt, Richard
Yes, of course.
Nixon, I mean, Ronald Reagan, they all did a tremendous amount for the environment. George W. Bush did. I was a George W. Bush intern. He protected a tremendous amount of land. He loved Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
And then even Trump messages he tracks along the lines of someone who actually cares about the environment. So
Yeah.
what you hear in the news media is, oh, Trump's going to open up the Grand Canyon to drilling. And maybe there is some discussion on that. And that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm just here to state that it's time for conservatives to start seizing the narrative of the environmental movement. And from that, we can save the environment. We can make sure we're good stewards of it. We can really put forth some pragmatic decisions and it makes sense and get it out of this kind of left-leaning or far left scenario that it's been stuck in for quite some time.
I'm with you, Chad. And so anything I can do to help you on this, let me know. But I think that's the problem with the left. They've taken it and it's become their religion.
Yeah.
Al Gore is their king. Greta Thunberg is their clown princess. Anyway, and they've made it into something that goes beyond even when Michael Moore calls you out and says it's all fake. You got to know, because there's something, and you probably have seen it, Planet of the Humans. They are really accurate up to the end where they conclude, well, we need to kill people. That's the conclusion of the movie. Spoiler alert, that's the point of the movie. We're evil. It's time for us to die. But the logic they use to get there to dispel and disperse any belief that the green movement has any validity is they do a good job of that. But let me just point out a couple of inconvenient facts to quote Al Gore. First
Heyo.
There's 3.04 trillion trees on planet Earth. And the estimates are that each tree consumes about 22 to 24 pounds of CO2. So if you just do the math, Chad, we're just fine. And as a matter of fact, to your point, if you want to take care of CO2, plant more trees, return environments to the wild, right? I mean, that's kind of what we should be doing.
Look, absolutely. And there's a really prominent environmentalist named Paul Hawkins who's recently published a book called Carbon, The Root of Life. Paul Hawkins is in his 70s or 80s at this point. He's from San Francisco, right? This guy knows what he's talking about. He's saying, hey, we're on the wrong track. If it's very hard. It's very hard to attack carbon when it makes up most of life.
Exactly.
Now, I'm not a scientist in that regard, and I don't usually get in that argument, but I'm just pointing that out because I think there's a lot of change going on in the environmental movement, and this is the time for conservatives to kind of educate themselves and kind of take the reins. And what you've said about Al Gore, I mean, Al Gore is really a funny situation because he started off strong, and then he just slid into this massive grift. Yeah. And now I mean, it's now he just only talks about kind of climate finance and these esoteric ways that just enrich him. And it's really sad, right? Because I think Al Gore probably started off on the right foot. But like I said, he's just slid into this grift. He's so entrenched and it's kind of over with. So you got to wonder kind of what he was thinking. But anyways, I didn't vote for him back in the day. I never thought he was that smart. So
no, well, and then just within the last 3 days, there he is. And by the way, Chad, maybe you can. I asked this: why did they name algorithms after Al Gore? I don't understand that.
Because he invented the internet.
I find that insulting.
I love the invented the internet thing. Like I laugh about that a lot. That was a hilarious moment.
Well, but one of the things that President Trump did do is he disbanded the Office of Climate Change, which John Kerry, old Boltneck. You got a picture of old Boltneck there for us, Chris?
I'll get I'll dig up the John Kerry photos.
John Kerry.
Kerry's interesting too, right? Because he's made a lot of statements. I mean, Tony and Chris, you're probably like me. I don't want to go out there and make statements that are untrue. I certainly don't want people to capture me or film me saying untrue statements. And if they do, I'm going to be embarrassed and I'm going to walk it back. John Kerry, not the case.
No.
Doesn't care at all.
No, I know. And that's what, there he is. There's John Kerry, our favorite, old Boltneck. I guess that was before he got out to the beach that one summer, It was
that was before the Botox. Before the Botox.
Yeah. Anyway, but there's John, and they anyway. So President Trump did shut down the Office of Climate Change. It was in the White House. Like, okay, it's enough there. Go away. But to your point, Chad, he was actually confronted. I don't remember which member of Congress. Oh, it was my friend from Kentucky. Who am I thinking of? Oh my God, I can picture.
Member of Congress from Kentucky. You're not talking about Rand Paul, are you?
No. Representative. Oh my God, I can. Anyway, he basically said, "Hey, Senator, do you fly around in private airplanes?" Oh, I don't have a private airplane. It's like, yeah, your wife does. Well,
Same
she
thing.
sold it.
Yeah.
It's like no, and this is out there on the internet where he's basically caught in a lie, and people, Chad, there's certain people that actually do track celebrities like Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Somebody's dogging Taylor constantly about she's got 2 private jets because she's flying that football player around her stud. Do they, Chris? We should ask our Hollywood friends. Do they actually have a stud service in Hollywood? Is that what she hired him from?
I don't know.
I digress. I shouldn't go down that path. I'll get in trouble.
Yeah, we're going to have a little trouble with that now. Yeah.
But you bring up a really funny point, right? Because I'm not trying to say Elon has a right to fly private. Taylor doesn't. But Elon flies private.
Yeah, of course.
He's also doing a lot of really important things. Taylor is a very famous entertainer. How could she not just fly first class and have security, right? I mean, I think that when you think that you're worth thousands of gallons of fuel, just for you to kind of do what you're doing, go see a boyfriend or, go buy a sandwich in another city. That's some massive narcissism.
Fly from John Wayne Airport to LA, Maine, just because you want a latte from a certain place in downtown. I'm telling you, he's done that.
He's done that. Dodge traffic.
Yeah.
I mean,
and by the way, it was Thomas Massey who did the dismantling of old Boatneck.
Well,
so,
it's the preaching though, Tony and Chadwick. It's the preaching. Yeah. You hear it from John Kerry actually said when he was confronted with the same question, because we're special.
That's right, we're special.
Remember that. These are the Davos people who are preaching to us about rationing energy or you shouldn't be using this anymore. You're all green. And you had France. What was it? Macron proposing that we only fly 4 times in our lifetime. These are the people that are telling us what to do when they can fly their private jets whenever they want. That's what bothers me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's intense hypocrisy.
Yeah. So and it's like I fundamentally, because I'm not a CO2 Nazi. I don't, CO2, produce it. I don't care. But if you produce it, plant more trees. Return Mother Earth to a reasonable state. And last night I had to do a rescue of a bird. We had to bring a starling to a rescue because it had fallen out of the nest. Be good stewards of the environment. Try to help nature, right? I mean, that's the thing to do, right? Am I wrong? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, and I think, one of the great sins is that hunters and fishermen have been pushed out of this in the discussions, right? And I mean, if you take a protester in downtown Atlanta with pink hair, the hunter is going to, and you compare that to a hunter, the hunter is going to know endlessly more about the environment than that person. And so to keep them out of the discussion is really an evil, I think. Those are all things that we need to change, especially here in America. So, it's an interesting time, but I think that we have a better chance now than ever before of really kind of righting these wrongs.
I hope so, because I mean, I as a city planner, someone who was actually, I was an intern. I didn't work there, but I recognize from experience that planning adequate and sustainable, and I would argue expandable green space in urban environments is very important. I came from Northern Virginia, Fairfax County. It's a liberal haven, but I'll say this about the county: they had planned in a lot of green space for parks, and they reclaimed railroad, rail lines and turned them into really great green space. We should be thinking like that. As a matter of fact, I guess I'm going to get a little bit ahead of myself. I've proposed we do down here the Teapot Trail in this area where we take the old rail lines, turn it into green space for people to go enjoy, to be there and to commune with nature. These are all things we should be as conservatives thinking about, and how to bring these sort of things to the American public. And then really, I have no problem slowing industry down in many ways to make sure we preserve green space. But that, Chad, that shouldn't be radical on our side, right? That should be the standard.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And there's all sorts of free market principles that back up what you're talking about, right? I mean, if you just kind of I've done a lot of beaver reintroductions here in the US and the UK, a lot of beaver work. If you allow beavers to flood certain waterways in a controllable manner, right? I mean, they need some guidance. Sometimes they do kind of tend to overpopulate. But if you allow them to do that, you mitigate floods tremendously.
Yeah.
Another point that you talked about, like if you have more conserved space in certain areas, it typically creates wealthier or your property prices tend to rise, right?
Yeah.
And so I mean these are things that they are conservative principles at heart. We've just for the last 25 years we've been chased out of the discussion points.
No doubt.
And now the discussion points are so discombobulated. That's why guys like myself are getting involved in just trying to say, okay, like let's bring this back to the right, because it's gotten absolutely crazy. And there is something they talk about. Let's queer the environment.
That's great.
There's some discussion points that I think when you bring in this social justice discussion point, from my perspective, it's like, sure, we can learn a lot from Native Americans and indigenous peoples on bison and how you view nature, and maybe have a spiritual component to it. However, it's totally different when you say blacks have been disenfranchised and discriminated by white men because of pollution. Because I mean, you can go to so many European cities, and all of these European cities on the rivers, the eastern part was the impoverished part because of the way the wind patterns blew, and the west was the wealthy area. Now the eastern part of those towns and cities have revitalized, and you've had gentrification, right? But only here in America, we're getting stuck in this kind of endless abyss of social justice that's being tied to the environmental movement.
Well, but it's wackadoodle, to your point.
Totally.
Chris just showed your thing about California. I was out visiting a friend, Cherie Curry, from the Runaways, for her last concert at Whiskey A Go Go. Yes, I'm advertising Cherie. And anyway, so she lives in the valley. She lives in the valley, and I had some time to go through Topanga Canyon. Let me tell you, Chad, Topanga Canyon was a tinderbox because they did not manage properly the environment. I'm all for green space, but don't let tinder just sit there on the ground and grow, because one of the factors of the California fires was not, the winds, the Santa Ana winds come through there all the time. I've heard Cherie, I've been on the phone with Cherie saying, I just had my entire backyard hit by an 80-mile-an-hour gust. It happens. But to be incompetent, to not manage what is manageable, to me is insane. So while I'm saying we should have green space, Chad, I don't think we should leave things like that alone. What do you think on that?
Oh, I mean, I think it's one of the most ridiculous situations in America, right? Because here on the East Coast, we have a lot of humidity, so it's kind of tough to start a fire. I mean, a fire can go on, right? And you can have a forest fire, but it's not like, let's say, in the Southwest where you have a very low humidity and it's quite easy to start a fire. So the fact that California has mismanaged this to the point that they have mismanagement is one. I mean, everyone should be thrown out of office, right? But at the same time, if you look at what's going on with the homeless crisis, over 50% of fires started in Los Angeles or started in homeless encampments. I mean, right there, right? That right there is just an easy fix. But California has the largest population of homeless people in America.
Yeah.
So it's really unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, the people on the left manage things through philosophy and propaganda. I think we are much more practical. I'm just saying it because
100%. We're much more pragmatic.
Yes.
Yeah. And if I see that, look, I love the environment, but we got to do something to preserve it. We got to do things to help people. And by the way, I mean, it's interesting that the state of Florida, which I think has become pretty much conservative, DeSantis is working his ass off to preserve a lot of the green space, a lot of the maritime space. They go after people big time for there was some knucklehead trying to kill manatees with his boat. The guy's in jail. Things like that to me are things we should be doing as conservatives. You preserve life. You do those things to sustain it. And to me, Florida is a great example of where I think they're really trying to implement practical but sustainable and policies which actually help people and keep the environment, preserve it for people to enjoy and be practical about it. So there you go.
100%. I mean, I think what DeSantis is doing in his leadership in Florida, that is the future of the Republican Party. And it's incredible how forward they are with environmental conservation across the board, right? From water safety in the Everglades to Florida panther to the Florida manatee.
All that.
And
all
that's
that.
something that Republican leaders in America need to emulate.
Yeah. So, and by the way, there's a lot of cougars down there. A lot of them don't have purple hair either. And they go to bars, but I don't want to get into that because that's like a cougar preserve. Right, Chris? That's where they all go now, right? From New York.
Unfortunately, cougars for us are probably pushing what age now? So I don't know.
That
might not be something it's a long story though, but
that's a different story for a different day.
Different story. You might want to use puma, right, or Florida panther when you're down there instead of saying cougar because they'll just point to the bar.
Oh yeah, Florida panther. Although I think
Chad,
they're still in the playoffs, right?
Thank you for being here. This has been enlightening and enjoyable. Thank you for joining us. There's this article. Check out his work on California. Boy, oh boy, have I seen that. I'm sure he lived it. I've seen it.
The myth of California.
And by the way, you're amongst patriots here who feel the same way we do. Just be nice. I try to drive slower through neighborhoods so I don't hit things. I try to make sure that if, like last night, we had to save a starling. The starling had fallen out of a nest. Nobody cut any trees down. It was the first question we got from rescue. Somebody cut a tree down? No. The freaking birds built a nest where they shouldn't have, and the bird fell out. We had to rescue it. It was a nestling. It wasn't quite ready to fly. Kind of like Greta Thunberg. Yeah, it's a bird, kind of. It kind of had that look. And with a big open mouth wanting to get, anyway, that's another story.
No, that's great.
Before I get more trouble, do the right thing with the environment. Chad, thank you. And I'd like to have you come back. Would you be willing to come back and continue this discussion?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. So we'll definitely come back.
Right.
Thank you both.
Folks.
Great to be on.
Thank you, Chad. And thank you, folks, for being here today. It's been a great show. We always appreciate bringing people like Chad in who can educate, inform, and entertain. And this was a great session going through what real environmentalism, what it really means to understand and be a good steward. So great job, folks. Chris, thanks always. Speaking of preservation, he's not like Ed McMahon preserved by alcohol. That he is not.
I have to get pickled sometime. Well, I'm
going to get pickled some other way.
Yeah, there we go.
So, anyway, we're done for the week, right? Well, we'll get back on Monday.
Yep, Tracy, Sean, and George are on Thursday and Friday. So Trixie, Sean, and George are on Thursday, Friday. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, until then, folks, and then I see them in the chat. Trixie and team, they'll have a great time. And we'll see you all back on Monday with some more great guests.
Excellent.